What if, somewhere in the shadows of prehistory, another kind of human once walked the Earth? Neither Neanderthal nor Homo sapiens, but something else. In the frozen depths of Siberia, inside a dark and silent cave, archaeologists uncovered a single fragment, a child's pinky bone. At first glance, it was nothing remarkable, just a tiny sliver of bone worn by time. But when scientists extracted its DNA, they were stunned. Hidden inside was the genetic signature of an unknown human species, one that had never been seen before. They called them the Denisovans. Unlike the Neanderthals, who left behind skulls, skeletons, and tools, the Denisovans exist mostly as whispers, genetic ghosts scattered across our DNA, fragments of teeth, and faint echoes of their presence in ancient caves. Yet their impact was profound. They interbred with both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, passing down traits that some of us still carry today. Traits that affect how we breathe at high altitudes, how we fight disease, and perhaps even how we evolved as modern humans. But who were they, really? Were they fierce hunters who roamed the Ice Age steppes? Were they master toolmakers? Or were they a shadowy people, blending into the mists of time, their legacy carried only in bloodlines? The Denisovans force us to confront a disturbing question. How many other kinds of humans once walked beside us, and how many stories have been lost forever? In this video, we will uncover the mysterious origins of the Denisovans, explore the archaeological evidence that revealed their existence, and dive deep into the unanswered questions about their culture, survival, and disappearance. Along the way, we'll travel through the icy corridors of Denisova Cave, examine the fragments of bone and tooth that rewrote human history, and consider the possibility that our family tree is far more tangled than we ever imagined. Because to understand the Denisovans is to peer into the dark corners of our own past, a reminder that the story of human evolution is not one of simple progress, but of lost cousins, forgotten legacies, and ancient mysteries still waiting to be revealed.
The story of the Denisovans begins in one of the coldest, most unforgiving landscapes on Earth, the all-time mountains of Siberia. Here lies Denisova Cave, a site that has become one of the most extraordinary windows into human prehistory. The cave itself is quiet and timeless, layers of sediment stacked like the pages of an ancient book. Within those layers, archaeologists have unearthed tools, animal bones, and human remains spanning hundreds of thousands of years. It was in 2008 that the now famous pinky bone fragment was discovered. At first, researchers believed it might belong to either a Neanderthal or a Homo sapiens child. But when the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology sequenced the DNA, the results shocked the world. This was neither. It belonged to a previously unknown branch of humans, a people who had shared the Earth with us but left almost no trace of their existence. Further excavations revealed two massive molars, unlike anything seen in either Neanderthals or modern humans. These teeth were broad and robust, hinting at a population well adapted to a rugged Ice Age environment. Combined with the bone fragment, they painted a picture of a people both similar to and distinct from their human cousins. But Denisovans did not remain confined to Siberia. Genetic evidence tells a much bigger story. As scientists began comparing ancient Denisovan DNA with modern populations, they found startling results. People living today in Melanesia, Papua New Guinea, and parts of Southeast Asia carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. Tibetans carry a Denisovan gene that allows them to survive at high altitudes by regulating oxygen in their blood. This means that Denisovans weren't just a Siberian population. They spread far, mingling with Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, and perhaps other archaic humans across Asia. The scientific implications were enormous. Until then, most people thought the story of human evolution was relatively simple. Neanderthals in Europe, Homo sapiens in Africa, maybe some overlap in the Middle East. But the Denisovan discovery shattered that simplicity. It revealed a far more complex web of interactions where multiple species of humans coexisted, competed, and interbred across vast regions. Archaeological layers from Denisova Cave also showed evidence of advanced behavior.
researchers found beautifully crafted ornaments, including a greenstone bracelet polished to a remarkable smoothness and a bone needle, the oldest of its kind ever discovered. These artifacts suggested that Denisovans were not merely surviving, they were innovating, creating, and leaving behind objects of cultural significance. And yet, despite these tantalizing clues, Denisovans remain frustratingly elusive. Unlike Neanderthals, we don't yet have a complete Denisovan skull, let alone a full skeleton. Much of what we know about them comes from genetics, scattered fossils, and a handful of artifacts. They remain shadows in the archaeological record, more mystery than certainty. But in that mystery lies their power. The Denisovans remind us that human evolution is not a straight line from primitive to advanced, but a braided river of branches, crossings, and disappearances. They force us to question how many other unknown relatives might still be hidden in the soil, waiting for discovery. The Denisovans were not simply a footnote in our story. They were our cousins, our partners, and perhaps even our rivals. And their genetic fingerprints still live on inside many of us today, proof that the human story is not just about us, but about all the people who came before, walked beside us, and then vanished into the depths of time.
To truly imagine the Denisovans, we must step back into the Ice Age world they inhabited. Picture vast, windswept plains of Eurasia, where mammoths grazed and saber-toothed cats stalked. Dense pine forests stretched across Siberia, while glaciers loomed on the horizon. This was a harsh and unforgiving environment, demanding strength, resilience, and ingenuity for survival. The Denisovans, much like their Neanderthal cousins, were built for this world. Though we don't yet have a full skeleton, genetic analysis and the size of their teeth suggests they were robust, broad-bodied humans capable of enduring the freezing climates and physical challenges of the Pleistocene. Their bones and teeth whisper of a people adapted to a life of hunting, gathering, and enduring extremes. But the Denisovans weren't just rugged survivors. Evidence from Denisova Cave suggests they were also skilled craftsmen. The polished green bracelet found in the cave wasn't just a utilitarian object. It may have held symbolic meaning, a sign of social identity or spiritual belief. Imagine a Denisovan artisan shaping a stone with incredible precision, creating something not just useful, but beautiful. This artifact is more than 40,000 years old, yet it radiates a quiet sophistication, telling us that Denisovans had culture, art, and perhaps even ritual. What did their daily lives look like? Picture small bands of hunters moving across the snowy landscape, armed with stone-tipped spears. Fires flickered at night in caves where families gathered for warmth and protection. Children learned to shape flint and bone, to recognize the tracks of animals in the snow. Each day was a gamble between survival and extinction. Yet Denisovans endured for tens of thousands of years. Their world, however, was never isolated. Genetic evidence shows Denisovans encountered and interbred with multiple human species. They mingled with Neanderthals in Eurasia, leaving behind hybrid offspring. In fact, scientists discovered the remains of a girl known as Deni, who had a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father, the clearest proof that these encounters were not rare accidents, but part of life. Even more astonishing is their genetic legacy in modern humans. The Denisovan gene that allows Tibetans to survive in high-altitude conditions without gasping for air is a stunning example of evolution through ancient DNA. It means that when Homo sapiens spread into Asia, they didn't just compete with Denisovans, they also borrowed from them, acquiring traits that helped them conquer extreme environments. This blending of lineages complicates the story of human evolution. We are not simply the descendants of a single pure line of ancestors. Instead, we are a patchwork, a tapestry woven from Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other archaic humans. Every time we look in the mirror, we are seeing not only Homo sapiens, but fragments of long-vanished cousins, who still live in our DNA. Yet, for all this connection, the Denisovans eventually disappeared. Unlike Homo sapiens, who spread across the globe, or Neanderthals whose bones and tools are found from Spain to Siberia, the Denisovans remain elusive. Why did they vanish? Did they succumb to climate change, disease, or competition from Homo sapiens? Or did they gradually merge into us, their identity dissolving into the greater human story? It's a haunting thought. An entire population of humans who shaped the world, intermingled with us, innovated and created, and yet left behind no great monuments, no sprawling settlements, not even a face we can reconstruct with certainty. Their disappearance is one of prehistory's greatest mysteries, an unfinished chapter in the book of human evolution. And still, their shadows stretch into the present. Every breath taken on the Tibetan plateau, every strand of DNA carrying Denisovan genes, every artifact pulled from Denisova Cave, all whisper of their presence. They remind us that humanity's past is far richer and stranger than the simplified story we once told. The Denisovans lived, thrived, and vanished, but their legacy is inside us, hidden in our blood, and to unlock their story is to glimpse not only who they were, but who we are.
The deeper we look into the Denisovans, the stranger and more unsettling their story becomes. Unlike Neanderthals, who've been reconstructed through hundreds of bones and skulls, the Denisovans remain almost invisible in the archaeological record. In fact, everything we know about them comes from just a handful of fragments: a finger bone, a few teeth, part of a jaw, and tiny scraps of DNA preserved in sediment. Imagine trying to piece together the story of an entire people from little more than the crumbs of history. Yet those crumbs are extraordinary. The Denisovan jawbone found on the Tibetan plateau, dating back over 160,000 years, revealed something shocking. These ancient humans had already adapted to life at extreme altitudes, long before Homo sapiens ever arrived there. To survive in such thin air, their bodies had developed unique genetic traits that later passed into modern Tibetans through interbreeding. This suggests that Denisovans weren't just surviving on the edges of the world. They were mastering environments that would kill most humans. But what did they look like? Here, scientists disagree. Some believe Denisovans may have resembled Neanderthals, with broad faces and heavy brows. Others suggest they could have had traits more similar to modern humans. Without a full skeleton, their image hovers in a cloud of speculation, a ghostly silhouette between worlds. The mystery has fueled theories that verge on the fantastical. Could Denisovans have been the inspiration behind myths of giants found in cultures across Asia? Their teeth and bones are unusually large compared to both Neanderthals and modern humans. Were they towering figures who left behind whispers of their existence in ancient folklore? Or are we projecting our fascination with lost giants onto fragments that simply belong to robust humans of their time? Then there is the question of technology and culture. The Denisovan bracelet discovered in Siberia is a puzzle. Its smooth finish suggests a level of craftsmanship that some archaeologists argue required advanced tools, not just stone, but possibly drilling technology. If true, this would radically change our assumptions about which species were capable of symbolic expression and precision engineering in the deep past. And yet, evidence is thin. For every clue, there is a counter-argument. Some scientists caution that we may be over-interpreting a few artifacts, turning the Denisovans into something more mysterious than they really were. After all, we crave stories of lost civilizations and hidden cousins. It's in our nature to seek wonder. But caution reminds us the Denisovans may have been more like us than we think. Not an enigma, but simply another branch of humanity that time erased. Still, the genetic evidence refuses to be ignored. Traces of Denisovan DNA have been found not only in Tibetans, but also in populations from Melanesia, Papua New Guinea, and Australia.
This suggests that Denisovans once roamed vast territories, interbreeding with migrating Homo sapiens along the way. How far did their range extend? Did they build settlements across Asia only for them to vanish without a trace? Or were they nomads, leaving behind little more than scattered camps and fragments? Here lies the tension. Archaeology gives us almost nothing, but genetics reveals everything. The bones are rare, but their DNA lives on in millions of people today. It's as if their physical presence was erased, but their genetic shadow lingers, stubbornly refusing to disappear. And so, debates rage in the scientific community. Were Denisovans a highly specialized population, thriving in certain niches like the high-altitude Tibetan plateau? Or were they widespread, shaping the genetic destiny of entire continents? Did they vanish suddenly, overwhelmed by Homo sapiens, or did they fade slowly, blending into us until their identity was lost? What we can say with certainty is this: the Denisovans force us to abandon the neat, linear story of human evolution. They reveal a tangled web of encounters, hybridizations, and mysteries. Instead of one dominant species rising triumphantly, the truth is far stranger. We are the product of collisions, mergings, and ghostly inheritances. In the silence of Denisova Cave, in the thin air of the Tibetan plateau, in the DNA of people living today, the Denisovans are still speaking. And the questions they leave behind may matter just as much as the answers.
The story of the Denisovans is not just about bones in caves or fragments of DNA. It's about us, modern humans, and what their shadowy existence tells us about who we are and who we might become. Think about it. We like to imagine ourselves as the lone survivors of prehistory, the single branch of humanity that triumphed while all others fell. But the Denisovans remind us that this isn't true. We are not alone in our ancestry. Our very blood carries fragments of prehistoric humans, whispers of cousins who shaped our biology in ways we are only beginning to understand. Take the genes inherited from Denisovans that allow Tibetans to thrive at high altitudes. Without them, life in the Himalayas might be impossible. Or consider immune system genes that helped early Homo sapiens resist new pathogens as they moved into unfamiliar lands. These are not just relics of the past. They are survival tools passed down through time. In a very real sense, the Denisovans are still helping us live today. This leads us to a humbling truth. Human evolution is not a story of isolation, but of connection. We are not pure descendants of a single perfect species. We are mosaics, patchworks of DNA woven together through encounters, exchanges, and sometimes violent struggles. The Denisovans, Neanderthals, and even other lost hominins live on inside us, shaping our strengths, vulnerabilities, and destinies. There is also a deeper lesson here about how much of our story remains hidden. If an entire population of ancient humans could exist for hundreds of thousands of years, spread across Asia, interbreed with our ancestors, and yet vanish, leaving only a few bones behind, what else have we missed? What chapters of human history remain locked away in caves not yet discovered, or in sediments waiting to give up their secrets? Archaeology often reminds us that absence is not proof of non-existence. The Denisovans force us to imagine what lies beyond the edges of our knowledge. They remind us to be cautious with certainty. Just as we once thought Neanderthals were brutish and incapable of symbolic thought, a claim now overturned by evidence of their art and burials, perhaps we are underestimating the Denisovans too. Maybe they had cultures, rituals, and beliefs that vanished like smoke with their disappearance. And so the reflective question becomes, what does it mean to be human? If humanity is not defined by being alone, but by being interconnected with other species, then our identity is far more complex than we admit. We are a chorus, not a solo. Our survival wasn't about superiority, it was about adaptability, borrowing strengths from those we encountered. There's also an uncomfortable implication. Just as the Denisovans faded into us, will we too one day fade into another form of humanity? Will our descendants look back at us as a vanished people, our traces hidden in their DNA? The Denisovans are both a mirror of our past and a warning about our future. In the end, reflecting on their existence forces us to confront our arrogance.
We like to think we stand at the pinnacle of evolution, the finished product of nature's long experiment. But the Denisovans whisper a different story, that we are still part of a tangled web, still evolving, still changing, and still deeply connected to cousins we thought were long gone. Their disappearance is not just a mystery of archaeology, it is a reminder of fragility. Civilizations, species, entire ways of life can vanish, leaving only fragments behind. But their survival within us is also a reminder of resilience. Even in disappearance, they endure. And so, perhaps, will we.
The Denisovans, our lost cousins, are proof that history is always deeper, stranger, and more mysterious than we imagine. From a few fragments of bone in a Siberian cave, we have uncovered an entire population of prehistoric humans who shaped our story in silence. Their existence rewrites what we thought we knew about human evolution, reminding us that the past is not a straight line, but a tangled web of encounters, struggles, and unexpected connections. We have seen how their genes live on in us, guiding survival in the high mountains of Tibet, protecting against ancient diseases, perhaps even influencing traits we carry today. They may be gone as a people, but they remain as whispers in our blood, as shadows in our DNA. They are not truly extinct. They are part of us. And yet their story remains incomplete. Who were they, beyond the fragments? Did they create art, carve symbols, bury their dead with meaning? Did they dream, sing, or tell stories by firelight like us? Or did their culture vanish without leaving a trace, their voices silenced by time? These are questions we may never fully answer, but each discovery pushes us closer. The Denisovans teach us humility. If such a people could exist for so long and remain almost invisible to us, how much more is still hidden? How many lost civilizations lie beneath the earth? How many branches of the human family remain undiscovered? Their story warns us against arrogance, against thinking we already know the whole truth of our origins. So we return to the question we began with. What if the Denisovans had survived into the modern world? Perhaps humanity would look very different. Perhaps history itself would be rewritten. But in a way, they have survived within us, shaping who we are. As we close this chapter, remember, the further back we look into the shadows of time, the more we realize that the greatest mysteries are not buried in the earth, but alive within us. Do we truly understand our origins, or are we only scratching the surface of a much greater story? If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us on the next exploration into the mysteries of humanity. The past still has secrets, and together we'll uncover them.